You're listening to Systemic Error Podcast. The failure was designed.
JD Vance's mocking joke to troops flops as he's met with silence, based on an article by Nicole Charky-Chami. JD Vance, the troops, and the thinness of grievance. The setting matters. Vice President JD Vance spoke at Naval Air Station Oceana to mark 250 years of the American military. That is an institutional stage, not a campaign stop. He used it to try to work a joke about Joe Biden stumbles into the room, as if military commemoration were a safe place to rehearse partisan resentment. The crowd gave him nothing. But silence is the point. When a vice president reaches for cheap ridicule in a formal setting and the room refuses to carry it, the performance collapses on contact with reality. Power speaking downward. Vance is not a commentator. He is the Vice President of the United States, speaking to service members at an official event. That matters because power does not merely speak here, it borrows the authority of the institution behind it. He chose to use that authority to punch down at a former president and to style the move as reluctant, almost self-censoring. That is a familiar political trick: make the jab, then ask credit for supposedly resisting it. The joke is not nonpartisan just because the speaker announces that he is trying to be nonpartisan. The real subject was the media. The Biden line was the bait. The target was the press. Vance's point was that if he fell downstairs once, it would become a major story, while Biden's fall somehow did not. That is not an argument so much as a grievance script, accuse coverage of bias before anyone can evaluate the claim. Whether the comparison is fair is not established by his speech, and the source offers no evidence that it is. What it does show is how often modern Republican performance turns public office into a complaint factory. The vice president was not there to explain policy or honor the occasion. He was there to rehearse a media persecution narrative in front of troops who had not asked to be cast as an audience for it. The joke failed because the frame failed. The crowd's zero reaction is more revealing than the content of the line. Military audiences are not obliged to laugh at partisan scraps, especially when those scraps are dressed up as official remarks. Vance mistook access to a uniformed audience for permission to import campaign trash into a ceremonial setting. That failure matters because it exposes a gap between political self-regard and actual authority. You can hold office, but you cannot force respect. You can try to convert institutional prestige into partisan theater, but the room may simply refuse to cooperate. What this episode really shows: this is smaller than scandal and uglier than accident. It is a portrait of a political class that treats public office as a platform for resentment management. The vice president did not misuse power through overt policy in this moment. He misused it through tone, setting, and intention. He tried to turn the military into a backdrop for a grievance against media scrutiny and a predecessor's physical frailty. That is the larger pattern. Elite officials increasingly speak as if governing is an inconvenience and performance is the job. The result is a politics of contempt, where institutional authority is spent on excuses, not responsibility. You've been listening to Systemic Error. Thanks to Raw Story for today's article. With the automated voice of Sam, thanks for listening.